Before we go ahead, I just wanted to run a commentary. I'm not going to preach or talk about anything. You mentioned Matthew 25:27 when the master talked about the slave saying, why didn't you put my money to the bankers, right? So there was this Lutheran priest in the 1800s, and he was running a commentary. He said he was comparing what the servant did when he dug the ground rather than putting the money with the bankers. And he said the labor, the strength that he used in digging the ground was even much more. It was laborious, it was more laborious compared to just going to the bankers, do you understand, to give the money and getting interest, right? So it just shows at times, like he said, we as Christians, we don't need to be foolish, right? There are the spiritual principles and there's the physical as well. Today, I'm just going to be concentrating on the natural principles, the economic principles. It's a very interesting but important topic to all of us, right? And if you have questions, please feel free to email. We have a church email, we have Twitter, and we've got Facebook. It's going to be high level, meaning that it's not something deep. I'm not going to be using anything ambiguous, no big words, right? And when we wanted to do this, I told him that the best thing I could do is let's start from the basics, right? Then from there, maybe we could make it a bi-monthly or monthly so that we can forge ahead with that. So today, I'm just going to be talking about the basic things like savings. Then maybe hopefully we could go to investing. Then we'll talk about the TFSAs, the RESPs for the kids, the RSPs, and all that. So for me today, so few things to disclose before we talk about these. I want you to look at the slide. There's no compensation. I have not received any compensation, nor do I intend to receive any to do this. Amen. Also, there's no solicitation. I'm going to be mentioning maybe products, services. I'm not soliciting for anything. There's no solicitation for any product or services. And also, the views are going to be my personal views. They do not represent the views of my employers or any of my associates. Also, this is for information purpose only, and they do not constitute any advice to buy or to sell any securities. Please, if you need more information about advice, speak to your own financial advisor. Also, I do not intend to create any fiduciary duty, which is a duty of care, right? If you've gone ahead to buy anything, based on what I've said, it's your personal liability about that. Thank you. And like you said, I'm not here to talk to you about, I know God is good, He's been good to us, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm just here to talk about the reality. Okay, one of the very important pieces, which I'm sure that has been causing stress for almost everybody in the world is what? Our finances. According to a survey that was done, 3 out of every 5 Canadians and people generally in the world, there are 3 things they talk about. So one of them is the cost of basics, like your groceries, your gas, rent, basic stuffs. If I were to ask people now, are you worried about buying a Tesla or a Range? People would not worry about that. But if I tell you what's the price of a milk, it's going up, or the price of rent, I'm sure all of us would be worried about that. The next important thing is your health, or the health of a family member. We are also worried that if anything were to happen to my children, or my mom, or my dad, how are they going to survive this? The number 3 thing is having enough money to retire. That's the future. We're always worried about the future. If I lose my job now, how am I going to survive? When I retire now, how am I going to survive as well? Right. So as you can see, all these they all have to do with what? Our finances. Right? It's very worrying, but it's not surprising as well. Now, based on what I've said, those three things, they all involve our finances. But let's look at the next slide, if you can see this. Now, this is a survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US. And they talked about the time that we spend doing things. So if you can see this, number one thing is sleeping. Average hours per day that we used in sleeping is 8 hours. It's very important that we get our sleep. The next one is walking. It takes about 8 hours as well. The one I want us to talk about is watching TV. That's about 3 hours, 63 minutes. And the next one I also want us to talk about is financial management. Average hour is about 86, 0.86. Using professional financial services is about 0.47. Now, if you look at watching TV, compare it to financial management. Watching TV, things like what? Ayetoro Town, right? Thor, Netflix, Orange is the New Black, Suits, right? It's almost 100, over 100 times. That means we sit down watching TV compared to planning our finances. And I guess this is one of the problems that we have right now. We're spending a minimal amount of time, looking at that thing that is important. There's this guy, his name is Peter Lynch. He's one of the greatest investors in the world. And he said, people spend more time and effort to buy the right refrigerator than they do to their finances. I've seen this a couple of times. I have someone who was going to buy a crock pot, and she was talking about if it's dual, if it's 6 quart, if it's 8 quart. And she spent quite a number of months, talking about that. And to me, I'm like, okay, let's compare that. If you were to take that time and just talk about your finances, right? But usually we feel like it's very overwhelming, right? We just feel like, well, I'm not going to talk about this. No, so talking about that, there are two set of people that we just ignore finances. One is people, they ignore the finances completely and they feel like it's overwhelming. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I don't understand what it is. But I tell you what, if you take your time to look at it, you'll definitely understand. So the first set of people, they ignore their finances completely. The next set of people, they obsess over the few details, and we were doing groceries yesterday, and we met a friend, and she was talking about if we buy frosted flakes, we're gonna get milk, and at the point it was more like a pressure, like, oh, why don't you get the milk? Why don't you get the milk? And we looked at the milk. It's a 1% milk, right? I don't drink milk. I really don't digest it. The kids, they're not supposed to drink the 1% milk. They are only allowed to drink the 3.25. So for me, what's the essence of trying to grab the milk, trying to buy more things so I could get more milk, when at the end of the day, I really don't need it? So those people, they are really obsessed over those little details. You hear them talking about, how the government is going to screw them up, right? How CRA is taxing them heavily and what they can do just to wriggle their way out of it. So for the set of people, there are several apps that you could use. There's an app that's called Mint. If you're having troubles planning your finances, there are several things you could do. Just check your phone, download the app, put it in. It's going to ask you several questions, and it gives you a monthly advice on what you could do. The other one is called the RBC Know Me as well. So once you have a mobile bank, like with RBC, for example, I'm not soliciting anything right now, but it looks at your budget, what you've done in the past, and it creates like a plan for you. Another thing you could do is a worksheet. This is a sample worksheet, right? You could I don't know if you want that. I'm sure we can download one. It could talk about your wages, what you're paying as rent, what you're paying for electricity, phone, cable. You just have to have an idea of what you're doing, basically, right? So, like I said, the former group is overwhelmed. The latter group is bogged down with the small details. But in reality, these are the few things I feel that are really important to us. Our income. How much are you earning right now? Right? The other thing is the spending rate. What are you spending that income on? The other thing is savings. How much are you saving? I tell you what, even if you're earning $5,000 biweekly and you're not able to save anything, someone that even earns a $500 biweekly and is able to save something is far better than you are. The other thing is housing. I'm talking about your mortgage, your rent, right? How much you're paying for all that. And the last one is transportation. These are the basic stuffs that I feel that it's quite very important that we should focus on in our home. Transportation, what you're paying, either for your gas, And when I was talking about the latter group, one of the things I know people would do is maybe they say, oh, at Costco, it's better, and maybe it's 2 cents better, and you're driving all the way from the northeast to go to the Costco on East Hills. What are you going to do? Spend your gas on that, to buy that, to come back again. So at the end of the day, you see that you haven't done anything, right? You've only wasted your time. And I think it's time we start monetizing those stress. And you look at it that if I were to go from here to Costco, how much do I think it's worth? Is my time worth that? Right? So by the time we start monetizing things, you're able to sit down and really see what you need and what you don't need. Why do we need to save? That's the next thing. Emergency funds. This is quite very important. So according to analysis, we need to save about 3 to 6 months of our living expenses. Like you said, most of us, in fact, almost everyone, we're 2 paychecks away from, going under. We need to save at least 3 to 6 months of our living expenses, the basic things that I told you about, so that even if we don't have that job, you know that I have something saved up somewhere, right? The other thing is your short-term goals. These are things you need to achieve in a year. We talked about maybe down payment for your car, you need to buy furniture, those things that you feel like, oh, I really need these. And best way to do this, you can leave them as cash or maybe as GICs. We'll talk more about that in the future. Then the next thing is your medium-term goals, right? Maybe the car that you bought in the short term, you need to pay off the loan, you need to buy a house, you need to graduate from college, right? Then the other one, the last one is your long-term goals, talking about your retirement. Maybe you need to buy a house as well, start a business. Those are our long-term goals. In fact, I have a friend, and the funny thing is she has a savings account for almost everything. In fact, for everything she does. And she's labeled them. So once she receives her paycheck, she's putting, $20 here, $50 here, $10 here. I'm not going beyond this, no matter what it is. Once I bought that shoe, that's the end of it. If Louis Vuitton let him do another shoe that can work that can fly, thank you. I've I've done the one for this month, right? I've done the one for this quarter. I don't care anymore. So those are the things we need to look at. And let's talk about the strategies now for savings. Number one is we should set realistic goals. You don't compare yourself if you're earning $20,000 per annum right now. Comparing yourself to someone that earns a 6-figure that lives in Aspen, yeah, I think that's foolishness, right? You need to look at yourself and say, okay, how much am I earning, right? How much can I save? What are my goals for what I'm earning right now? Set a goal that you could easily meet. most times when I have clients come into my office, I usually tell them, you know what? I don't care how much you're saving. I'm not interested in if it's $50 or $5,000. All I need you to do is save up. Save up something from what you're earning, right? You look at where we work right now. Most of us are paid for what we're doing. It's not like they like us or, yeah. It's basically because we're working for them, right? That's why we get paid. If we stop working with them tomorrow and say, hey, I'm no longer interested in this, do you think they'll still pay you? They'll never pay you, right? So in as much as you're getting that pay, that brings me to the second thing. You need to pay yourself first. What do I mean by that? If I earn $500 bi-weekly, I should look at it and say, wow, I've labored for this 500. Let me take out $20, 2% of it, whatever it is, I don't care. I need to pay myself this. I need to set these aside for myself. If you don't, I tell you what, expenses will come. People from Nigeria would come. I'm sorry to say, I'm not saying Nigerians are vulture, but people will come for that party, right? They'll come for that grandmother that has been dead for like 10 years and they want to do remembrance, thank you, 20-year remembrance for a bone that is rotten. And if you don't give it to them, it's going to become a problem. But I tell you what, if you don't have it, what will happen? You don't have it. There's no one that can, yeah. And you don't feel bad about that because you don't have it, right? Okay. So we should treat savings as a non-discretionary expense. What do I mean by that is, most of us, we feel like, okay, now I've received my paycheck. The first thing is, let me deal with every other thing first. Then whatever that is left, then I'm going to save. It doesn't work that way. Rather, we should try to save first, make it as an expense. I'm putting these away for myself, fixed. It doesn't matter, like I said. It could be 2%, it could be 10%, it could be a dollar value, $20, $50. I'm putting these away. Does that make sense to every one of us? Okay, so you work, you get paid. Pay yourself first. The other thing is we need to set up an automatic savings plan. So I just listed a few things. First one is called a DRIP. We call that dividend reinvestment plan. I don't know if you're, for example, this is maybe a bit technical, but I'll just give you as an example. Let's say you have a rent that you're getting right now, and the rent comes in. You shouldn't just say, oh, now I've received the rent, let me go spend that. You should have a vehicle, like a means to reinvest that. So usually we do this for dividends. When you receive dividend, we call it dividend reinvestment plan. So have that vehicle to reinvest whatever you're getting. The other one is called a PAC, pre-authorized contribution. So I know I'm earning $10,000 bi-weekly. I'm telling whoever it is, you know what, at the 24th of every month or bi-weekly, please take out so much from my account, right? As it's coming in, you're taking it away. If I don't have it, I don't spend it. The other one is called a PASS. What I call that is a pre-authorized savings, right? It could go from maybe your RBC to your CIBC or from your TD to wherever it's going, but have a savings. Like I said, my friend, she's got like several savings accounts. How much? What's the fee to open a savings account right now? It's zero. Zero. You could have a savings account. It doesn't have to be a checking account. Keep putting your money away into that. The other one, it's called an automatic investment plan. Set it up to say, okay, invest also amount for me every month, every bi-weekly, right? Now, the last thing I want to talk about is insurance. If you're not taking away anything from what we're talking about today, this is very important. I'll give you a very not so good scenario, and I see this like every time. Last week I was having an appointment, and my friend came in, and the husband, my friend's friend, the husband just died like 8 weeks ago. And I tell you what, she came last week to tell me the woman has gone to the bank to say, you know what, take our house, I don't want these anymore, because she couldn't pay. It's just 8 weeks. I'm not even sure it's up to 8 weeks that the husband just passed away. Right? Especially for most of us from Africa, we see insurance as something that's sacred, something that we don't have to do, something that's not necessary, and most times we look at it and say, what's like, especially for us Christians, oh, I shall not die, but live to declare the glory of God. Oh, it is well with my soul. I'll tell you this, it's a very foolish strategy. So back to what I was saying, 8 weeks, and the woman is back, going to the bank to say, you know what, take off this. Right? Take off. I'm not doing this again. I'm not interested. And what do you think the bank is going to do? They're going to sell off. Right? Maybe at a cheaper rate, like she said. So we shouldn't treat insurance as something that we're just giving to the bank. It's for your own good. Maybe the mortgage is like 400 grand now. The equity they've put into it, it's gone. The house, it's gone. She's got kids, maybe like 2 or 3 kids. And I tell you what, you have to ask yourself, where are they going to start from? So most times what I tell my clients is, look at yourself, look at the kids in the face and say, if I'm gone tomorrow, how are these kids going to survive? Insurance is not a stop, it's not a, how do I say it now? It's not a means for you to be wealthy, to say, oh, if I'm gone, my wife is going to have that 500,000 or she's going to have that $1 million. It's a stopgap to say, this is where I am today, this is where I want to be tomorrow. If something were to happen to me between now and tomorrow, this is what the insurance will do. A simple term life would be okay. Even if it's a $50, $100, it doesn't matter. $250,000, $200 worth of insurance. It just do something. Imagine that the husband has contributed to an insurance, even if it's a $25 or a $50. Even if they don't have money to eat, but at least they're able to pay off the mortgage. And at the end of the day, if they sell off the house, it still comes back to them. Right? So, I mean, we should try to do that. Then the fourth thing I want us to talk about is take a savings first approach. And this is very important for most of us. If you don't have it, I used to say, please don't spend it. Avoid impulse spending. Oh, it's Christmas time, it's Halloween. I'm going to get those masks for the kids. And you had a mask that you used last year. We had those colorful lights we used last year. What is wrong with it? They are outdated now. You want to buy a new set just because your neighbor just got a new one. You want to outshine them. You know, so these are impulse spending. And you say, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy that new dress. It's Thanksgiving Day, right? I'm just going to wear it to Thanksgiving. You know, and after that, you don't want to wear it again because you don't want people to look at you and say, oh, you just spent these on Thanksgiving. I mean, you just wore this last Thanksgiving. How come you're wearing it again? If you don't have it, don't spend it, right? We should avoid spending on credit. Lastly, I want us to talk about rewarding ourselves and invest in yourself. I'll first talk about investing in yourself. Everything I've mentioned, it's very, very difficult to do. I'll tell you. I mean, you just wake up every morning and say, oh, I want to save this, right? But at the end of the day, invest in yourself as well. Buy that book. make that subscription. It doesn't cost a thing. Most times I have this Globe and Mail. How much is it? 99 cents per week. They're even able to give you a few months free. Most times what I do is I just, okay, go in, look at what's happening. I register. Maybe they give me 1 month subscription free. Once I see it's going to end, I could turn it off, cancel it, thank you. I wait for another time. They have another. And they are free editorials as well. You know, they just tell me, oh, you don't have to pay for this. And I read those, elections, everything. Read. Buy their books, like I said. It doesn't have to be physical books. It's possible it's online, right? So there are a lot of things that we could do. You know, if it's a program, if it's that diploma, if it's that degree, we shouldn't just come and say, oh yeah, now I'm working. I don't need to do anything again. All I need is the money. Yeah, we need the money, but at the end of the day, you need to invest in yourself as well and say, this is what I've been able to do with my money. I'll give you a very good example. When I was applying for the Canadian, what do we call that thing now, the skilled immigrant, one of the requirements was if you have an MBA or like a master's, let me put it that way, or your bachelor's, you have your master's, you're going to get 17 points. For example, I can't remember what the point is now, right now. But there's a difference between when you have your master's and when you have your bachelor's. And when I did my my master's, I was working very well, I was earning, but I just felt like there's no point. Let me upgrade myself. I didn't need it at that point. But it came to a point when they said, if you have this, this is what you're going to get. If you don't have it, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a lesser mark. And I remember a couple of my friends who didn't have it then, they had to go back, rush, try to get the master's. While we are applying for the papers and we're doing everything because we had it, they had to go back, right, just to register for that. You know, so like I said, it doesn't matter what it is. Find your own interest. I don't know what you like, if it's spirituality, if it's finance, if it's anything. You know, just try to upgrade yourself. Try to know more about it. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to work, I'm going to earn that money. You know, find that thing that interests you. I used to have, there's this guy, I'll give you a story. Yeah, he's in Toronto right now. In fact, he plays for the Toronto Raptors. His name is Van Vleets, right? Right, as you can remember, a few months ago, the Raptors, they won the NBA championship, and we're all very happy in Canada. But I'll tell you, there are stories behind those things. Van Vliet, I can't remember, like a few years ago, it was supposed to be a draft. Like they were doing the NBA draft, and it was undrafted. So when we talk about draft, it means that all let me put it this way, the clubs, they're going to pick from all the players available and say, oh, I like this guy, I like you, come play for us. And Van Vliet already had his party to say, okay, once I'm picked, right, oh, yeah, I'm going to celebrate. At the end of the day, nobody chose him. That was very disappointing, I'll tell you that. And he went back, he went to the party, he told everybody, hey, you know what, sorry about that, I wasn't drafted. In fact, at a point, people were even ready to give him a whole load of rubbish, saying, oh, come and play in our League 2, we'll only offer you $20,000. While people who were drafted, they were giving them so many millions. But he looked at himself and he said, you know what, I'm better than this. You know? And what did he do? He kept developing himself. He kept developing his skills. At a point, the Raptors, they chose him with like 3 or 4 other guys to say, okay, just come in, play for us. Let's see if you're good enough. You know, and out of like 3 or 4 people, I think at the point he was chosen. But cut the long story short, 2 years ago, he was still a fringe player. When I say fringe player, like a bench player, to say if someone were to get injured, oh, just come in, play. 2 years ago, he was still a fringe player with the Raptors. But this year, I tell you what, he was one of the biggest boys. Like, he helped them to win the championship. Not single-handedly, but he was very, very vital to them winning the championship. He used to say something like he has a brand, a clothes brand. Now he calls that bet on yourself. He believed in himself. He knew that he's able to do this, right? Even though people saw him and said, "Oh, you're too short." Yeah, maybe he's a bit taller than I am, but yeah, I think he's 1.83. But he believed in himself. But not only believed in himself, right? He worked on that. He invested in himself to say, "I know I'm better than this. If I do this, I know this is where it's going to come out from," right? And lastly, what I want to talk about is rewarding yourself. Yeah, I know, like I said, it's hard when you invest in yourself, when you're saving, but take time out to buy that nice shoe as well, right? It's not just about savings and savings, and at the end of the day, we're not seeing anything. Take time out, even if it's once a month, once in a quarter, buy that new shoe, buy that new suit, just to reward yourself for a good job done. I was talking to someone last week Sunday, and he said, "Oh, I saw a suit. I wanted to buy this suit," and I was telling myself, like, "Oh, if I buy this suit now, can I really afford it?" But he went ahead. He bought the suit, and every time he wears the suit, there's this feeling, that you get that, wow. I'm not saying every month then he goes back to say, "Oh yeah, I want to buy this $600 suit or this $1,000 suit." But once in a while, reward yourself for a good job, right? So I think I've come to the end of everything. If you've got questions, like I said, send an email to the church, or maybe the Twitter handle or Facebook. Send us an email. I'll be happy to help with anything. Thank you.